I'm going to give you some tips for post-lab 15 TLC analysis of drug components. First, you're going to report the identity of the substances in the unknown. There might be more than one. And to do this, you're just going to be comparing the spots on your TLC plate. So you have spots for your unknown, and then you also have a series of spots for all of the different possible components in that unknown. And what your goal is just simply to match the spots up. So like if this was your unknown, you could say that it had this component in it and that it also had this component in it as well. Things might not work out perfectly when you're doing this experiment. A spot may not be visible if you didn't put enough substance on the starting line. So just do your best with your real data because it's not always easy to analyze. Next, you're going to be calculating the RF value for each spot. Some substances have more than one spot. Each spot gets its own RF value. Instructions for this are on page 669 in your lab textbook. It's a pretty easy calculation. Exercise 2, page 146 is asking you about the solid substance that is left behind. So in these solutions or in the little tiny Erlenmeyer flasks that we used, there was some solid substance down at the bottom of the Erlenmeyer flask, and it's asking you what that substance is telling you that the actual drug itself, the chemical that has the analgesic properties, that's actually been dissolved in the solution. So what's this solid thing that's left behind down at the bottom? Question number 4 is one of those ones where you have, mistakes that you could have made in lab, and what would the effect of those mistakes be? And I only want you to do A and D. Now in question A, it is talking about the chromatogram, and that's just a fancy way of saying TLC plate. So you can read it like that. You allowed your TLC plate to develop for too long and you couldn't find the solvent front. Just in case you forgot, the solvent front is what you see like in the instant that you pull your TLC plate out of that developing chamber, you can see the line where the liquid is. So like this much of the TLC plate has been saturated with the liquid and this much up here is dry. And if you recall, you really quickly drew that line to mark how high the solvent had actually traveled on your TLC plate. So this question is asking, like, what if you left it too long and the whole entire TLC plate had been saturated? There was no dry part. What would the errors be as a result of that? And then question D part D, I think, is pretty straightforward. And then last but not least, you're going to do exercise 6. This is talking about Aleve, naproxen. Wants you to look up the systematic name. Systematic is the same as IUPAC. You're going to use the internet to help you find that. Wikipedia is a really great resource for that. And then draw the structure. That's for part A. And then for part B, it's asking you to come up with an idea. Why do you think the physiological effects of naproxen are similar to one of the drugs that you looked at in the experiment? And why are they the same? And to give you a hint, I want you to look at the molecular structures of the compounds. What substance is structurally similar to Aleve?